I'd also like to ask you about permanent immigration. If you do move forward with the 25,000 scenario, my understanding is that about 60% of the permanent immigrants would have to be from the economic sector. So what exactly does this mean for people who are waiting for family reunification?
Depending of the scenario, we have 25,000, 35,000, 45,000, depending of the scenario. As you can see, the numbers of family reunification that will be called is changed, of course, because it's a ratio. But that's why we need to start a national discussion. We didn't decide it will be 25 or 35 or 45. Let's have a discussion considering those human projects as human beings, understanding where they're living, but considering too housing matters, our schools and our health system. We have to consider all what matters and our capacity to pay for services too.
Okay, that's Immigration Minister Jean-François Roberge. James Mennie from the Montreal Gazette is on the line. Jim, what did you think of that answer, non-answer? What do you make of the way that Quebec is handling immigration right now?
Listen, you're quite right. The non-answer, get used to it. Excuse me. You'll be hearing that between now and October of next year in the election. You'll be hearing a lot more about immigration levels. Which is always a hot button issue here because, well, the Legault government keeps warming up that button. And it really is like, that today the call from Monsieur Roberge, our immigration minister, was, Mesdames, Messieurs, Bonjour. They've opened up the latest round of immigration roulette. They don't believe any of those numbers is reasonable. They have been quite clear. This government has been howling like a pig in a gate over the levels of immigration, how Ottawa is just, Quebec is on the verge of cultural suicide, Matt, because all these immigrants are coming in and they don't share our values. So we have to make sure that these immigrants share. What are those values, Matt? I'm not entirely sure. Is it in Bill 21, which is presently being challenged before the Supreme Court? Who knows? But all that said, you make sure you're going to be hearing from a lot of cat eggheads between now and October of next year and the general election, and from the PQ, and from any other sort of cultural apparatchik groups that are making a pretty decent living, telling Quebecers they should be frightened of anybody who doesn't look, sound, or have the same kind of a name that they do. But the reality is there's another Quebec, a Quebec that actually has to work for a living, whether it's business people, whether it is, economic interests, whether it's groups of businesses that are saying, listen, I would love to have, 100% Quebec payrolls. They don't want to do the jobs. We are missing people. And the labor shortage is still there. We don't talk about it anywhere near as much as we used to, Matt, but it's still there. And this is the bottom line. Immigrants, as they have always done, immigrants do the jobs that Quebecers can't find them to do. Did the last government, i.e. Justin Trudeau, go completely off the cliff when it came to immigration levels? Of course, because all he wanted to do was stick it to Donald Trump, open up Canada completely to anyone and everyone, because he would score points, I guess, online by doing that. And yes, there is an issue with this country's, not just Quebec, but this country's ability to properly house and educate and care for, provide health care for all these people. That said, please don't look for a rational step-by-step examination of the issue of immigration in Quebec. We've never had one. We never will have one. And it may be a race to the bottom between now and October of next year to see who can sound toughest, i.e. most negative about the issue of how many people from outside of Quebec can come inside Quebec.
Jim, just shifting gears to Ottawa, Mark Carney had a pretty good week with his ministers meeting. His Edmonton Oilers have won Game 1, so he should be happy. But a survey is suggesting that his honeymoon is sort of being darkened by the cloud of Justin Trudeau still.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating, Angus Reid comes out and, every now and then with various germane questions. And, Carney is cruising. He's at 57% approval. He's doing very well. And it's funny, when you look at the opinion of respondents on what they are confident he'll be able to achieve, Number one is strengthening Canada's relationships with like-minded nations, i.e. people who realize you can no longer deal with the U.S. Removing interprovincial trade barriers. He's scoring, and we're talking here in the 50s and the 60s. Things get a little wobbly when we get to strengthening Canada's armed forces. It's kind of a dead heat, 50-50. Increasing private investment in Canadian businesses, maybe in the 40s. But we get to strengthening Canada's relationship with the United States, reducing spending on government operations, and the kicker, at the dead bottom of the list, making housing more affordable. Only 17% of respondents think Carney's going to be able to do that. And once again, I think these are people who are quite justifiably gun-shy over the prospect of any Liberal being able to deal with the issue of the affordable housing crisis. Trudeau just basically provided little bromides and nice little cliches for people, but did nothing in fact. And in fact, the idea of reducing government spending, well, on the government itself, Trudeau absolutely bloated the government service during his decade in power. I think it went up close to 40% in terms of the bureaucracy. So listen, he's got a tough road to hoe on that to regain that trust. We're hearing today, and I don't know how real that is, that, Mark Carney is, having, discreet meetings with Donald Trump. Sounds a bit weird to me, and maybe that will sort of unshackle him from certain reserves that voters have over his ability to deal with the U.S., over his ability to improve relations with that country. But all that said, it's kind of funny because even though he's gone, so to speak, Justin Trudeau is not forgotten by Canadians, and his legacy of not getting things done seems to live on, even though he has been pretty well significantly, removed from the levers of government. So I think, the biggest issue, the biggest opposition that Mark Carney is going to face is not going to come from Pierre Poilievre and company, but rather from the ghost of the political ghost of Justin Trudeau.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
Adam out.